Hi, my name is Lauryn Donovan. I'm a senior in high school right now. I go to Ladue High School in St. Louis, Missouri, and I plan on going to Howard University in the fall. I've been an activist since I was in about sixth grade, and it really started with the Black Lives Matter movement and kind of speaking out about the murder of Michael Brown, which was really big in about 2014, like when I was in sixth grade. From then on, I kind of found myself being really vocal about a lot of different social justice topics. And when I go to college, I plan on majoring in political science and minoring in sociology. I really want to become a civil rights lawyer or something kind of in that area. And if not, that maybe a politician or an educator, just because these are topics that I really, really like to discuss. I feel like I definitely grew to I guess find an appreciation for history when I was about a sophomore. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed learning about history or just wanted to take more history classes until I took world studies. And in that class, a lot of it was based around the fact that, why do we learn about history? So we can appreciate the past, so we can learn about it, celebrate it, so we don't repeat the past. And, just so we have that knowledge, it's important knowledge to have. It creates that's literally the context for everything, just learning about the past. So learning about that and then learning that and then kind of learning the content in that class. I realized that a lot of content we didn't learn about or we kind of glossed over. And for a world studies class, I was surprised that we only spent maybe a week or two on Black history and the history of Africa itself, not individual countries within Africa, Africa, the continent. And it really bothered me because for such a vast history and for really influential and rich history, we didn't learn a lot about it. And that was really concerning. And even moving up to my US history classes, or US history, I took that freshman year. But even then I didn't learn a lot about the history of people of color. And now I'm in AP US history. And I feel like I still got the same amount of, what I did US history, regular US history. So in doing independent reading, there was just so much that I found I never would have learned in class. And even with other Black students or me or my Black teachers bringing stuff up, there's just so much that would have gone untalked about. So that's when I really became concerned about what we're learning and what we're not learning, or why we're learning it and why we're not learning it. It's really important, especially to younger students who are, growing up and you first learn about MLK or Malcolm X, to really learn about, leaders that you can see yourself, so you can see yourself represented in the history books. When I was younger, I didn't, even though kindergarten is about, creating relationships and learning about your alphabets and stuff like that, I never read any books that had any Black protagonists. And I didn't have any classmates. I only had about 2 classmates who were Black. And then the number grew to about 8 by the time I was out of elementary school. So I never really had a lot of Black representation. And that really had a huge effect on my self-esteem. On top of the fact that when you see yourself represented in history books, it's not really a positive thing. It's usually you're the oppressed or the helpless, you're the enslaved person, or, the person being lynched. And though it's really, really important to look at those aspects of history, it's really, really important to not only see your classmates as the discoverers and the conquerors and the Christopher Columbuses and the George Washingtons, while you get portrayed as their slave, their, the other, the, whatever else was in the history book. So it's really important to teach, students of color, Black students, about really important historical figures and events that happened from a young age and up. It shouldn't just be, I get to choose Black studies when I get to my junior year of high school. I went to a school board meeting and I complained about the history curriculum because I noticed that in a lot of my history classes, we just weren't learning about specifically Black history. And obviously within that, the history of so many other people of color. So I complained about that. And I noted how, leaving out important aspects of history is completely disregarding a whole demographic of students while you only cater to your white student body. So I brought up a whole bunch of speaking points, and they agreed to meet with me and try to change the history, rewrite it a little bit. There was a conference, and I spoke at 2 of the teachers' meetings, giving my personal perspective, and then about 3 days to a week of like actually rewriting the history. And Dr. LeGarrette King helped me through that, kind of guided me through that whole process. And then even after that, I wrote a Education Week article on like how it's just about like the miseducation of Black history in a lot of American schools, and how like a lot of history seems like propaganda the way that it's being taught. Sometimes you need to just listen. Sometimes your students of color need to just talk, and they need to vent, and they really need to get their point across, because it feels like sometimes you just can't. So to create a comfortable space for your students of color to, you know, at least express themselves, especially in a predominantly white class, because it can just get really, really uncomfortable, especially when you know you're facing judgment or you get weird looks. I'd say don't take it as a personal thing when, you know, talking about changing the curriculum and, you know, maybe some flaws that teachers have had, you know, with teaching the curriculum. I know with bringing up my specific classes, I might have brought up some negative feelings for some of my teachers, and I love all my history teachers. I don't have a bad feeling towards, you know, any of them. I've always had like good conversations, and I've learned a lot of stuff from them, but I know that some of the ways that they teach are flawed, and I know a lot of the things that they teach are flawed, and that's not an attack on their personal character. But I feel like at this point, it should be taken more as okay, you know what? She said it. Maybe I should just sit back and listen and, you know, think about it. How have I been teaching in the past, however long I've been teaching? What do I teach? Why do I teach it? Just sit back and ask yourself, you know, why am I doing what I do? Who am I doing it for? Who does it benefit? Who am I talking about? You know, whose history am I talking about more than somebody else's? You know, has this been fact checked? Go to the school board and talk about it. Like, vote for people who actually like strive for diversity and progress. Be in an uncomfortable conversation. Call people out. Like, you're not being an ally if you're being complacent, or if you're, you know, sitting on the fence about a lot of issues, especially with issues like this. Like I said, like, so many people can attest to the fact that they just don't learn about Black history. Like, my parents can, my siblings can, my friends can, I can. Or just like just any history that's been suppressed. Like, talk about it. If you really want to like strive for progress, learning about the context of like a lot of historical situations is the first way you're going to get across to people.